There is a pattern most people never notice. The most successful people in the world, the ones who lead empires, build legacies, and remain calm while everything around them burns, they all share something in common. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not even intelligence. It is a set of daily habits so simple that most people overlook them entirely. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers discovered these same habits. Marcus Aurelius used them to rule Rome during plague, war, and betrayal. Epictetus used them to find freedom while living as a slave. Seneca used them to advise emperors and survive exile. These were not weak men hiding from the world. These were men who operated at the highest level because of how they trained their minds every single day. And here is what is remarkable. The habits they practiced are the same ones you will find in the routines of today's most disciplined founders, leaders, and high performers. Today, you will learn 10 of these habits. Not theories, not motivational quotes, actual practices you can start using tonight. And by the end, you will understand exactly what separates the top 1% from everyone else. Habit number 1. They wake before the world does. This is not about glorifying early mornings for the sake of it. This is about something much deeper. The top 1% understand that the first hour of your day is the most unprotected hour. It is the hour when the world has not yet made its demands. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, woke before dawn every single day. Not because he had to. He had servants, advisors, an entire empire at his command. He woke early because those quiet hours before sunrise were the only hours that truly belonged to him. He used that time to write, to reflect, to prepare his mind for whatever the day would bring. Most people wake up and immediately hand their attention to someone else, their phone, their inbox, the news. But the top 1% wake up and invest that first hour in themselves. They journal, they plan, they sit in silence. Because they know that if you do not own your morning, the world will own your entire day. Habit number 2. They control their reactions, not their circumstances. The average person spends enormous energy trying to control things that are completely outside their power. The weather, other people's opinions, the economy, traffic. The top 1% do not waste a single second on this. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave in Rome, taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. A man who loses his job can see it as the end, or he can see it as the beginning of something better. The event is the same. The response is everything. This is not positive thinking. This is strategic thinking. When something goes wrong, the top 1% do not panic. They do not blame. They ask one question: what is within my control right now? And then they act on that, and only that. This single habit, practiced daily, is what allows certain people to remain composed while everyone around them falls apart. It is not that they feel less. It is that they have trained themselves to respond with intention instead of impulse. Habit number 3. They say less than necessary. Watch the most powerful person in any room. They are almost never the one talking the most. They listen. They observe. And when they finally speak, every word carries weight. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote that we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But he also practiced extreme discipline with his words. He believed that every unnecessary word spoken was energy wasted and vulnerability exposed. The top 1% are deliberate with language. They do not overshare their plans, because plans shared too early invite doubt from others. They do not explain themselves to people who are not invested in understanding. They do not gossip, because gossip reveals more about the speaker than the subject. There is an immense power in strategic silence. It forces others to pay attention when you do speak. It protects your ideas while they are still forming, and it signals a level of self-control that most people simply do not possess. Speak with purpose or remain silent. There is no middle ground for those who operate at the highest level. Habit number 4. They embrace discomfort daily. This is where the top 1% separate themselves most clearly. While most people organize their entire lives around avoiding discomfort, the most successful people in history actively sought it out. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, would periodically eat the simplest food, wear rough clothing, and sleep on a hard surface. Not because he had to, because he wanted to train himself to not fear losing what he had. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse clothing, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" The top 1% take cold showers not because they enjoy them, but because the discipline of doing hard things when no one is watching builds a foundation that cannot be shaken. They have difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. They exercise when they do not feel like it. They sit with boredom instead of reaching for distraction. Every act of voluntary discomfort is a deposit into a mental bank account that pays compound interest when life inevitably gets hard. Habit number 5. They never argue with fools. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is to not be like your enemy, and yet most people cannot resist engaging with every critic, every troll, every person who questions their path. The top 1% have learned a truth that saves them thousands of hours over a lifetime. Not every challenge deserves a response. When someone attacks their character, they do not defend. When someone offers unsolicited criticism from a place of ignorance, they do not correct. When someone tries to pull them into a pointless debate, they simply walk away. This is not weakness. This is an incredibly disciplined form of strength. Epictetus taught that if a person tries to provoke you and you do not respond, who has won? The one who threw the insult, or the one who was completely unaffected by it? The top 1% protect their time and energy like it is their most valuable asset, because it is. They understand that engaging with every negative voice is a losing game. You cannot win an argument with someone who has nothing to lose. Let them talk, let them judge, and keep building in silence. If these habits are resonating with you and you want to build this kind of Stoic discipline into your daily life, make sure to subscribe and stay with us. We have 5 more habits that the top 1% practice, and the next one might be the most important of all. Habit number 6. They audit their circle ruthlessly. The Stoics believe that you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. This was not a casual observation. It was a warning. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those who you are capable of improving." The process is a mutual one. Men learn as they teach. The top 1% do not keep people in their lives out of guilt, habit, or obligation. They evaluate their relationships with the same discipline they apply to their work. They ask, does this person challenge me to grow? Do they bring clarity or confusion? Do they add energy or drain it? This does not mean they are cold or heartless. It means they understand that proximity is power. The people closest to you shape your standards, your habits, and your beliefs, whether you realize it or not. If you surround yourself with people who complain, you will complain. If you surround yourself with people who build, you will build. The top 1% choose their circle before their circle chooses them. Habit number 7. They own their mistakes immediately. Most people, when they make a mistake, do one of 3 things. They deny it, they blame someone else, or they minimize it. The top 1% do none of these. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, a confession that was never meant for public eyes, about his own flaws, his own temper, his own failures of patience and judgment. The most powerful man in the world sat down each night and held himself accountable. This is the habit that builds unshakable trust. When you own a mistake immediately and completely, something remarkable happens. People respect you more, not less, because they know you operate from truth, not ego. The Stoics called this radical honesty with the self. You cannot grow if you cannot see yourself clearly. And you cannot see yourself clearly if you are constantly defending a version of yourself that does not exist. When you are wrong, say it. When you fail, own it. When you could have done better, admit it. This is not weakness. This is the foundation of real authority. Habit number 8. They master the art of walking away. This might be the most underrated skill the top 1% possess, the ability to leave, to walk away from a bad deal, a toxic relationship, a sunk cost, or a situation that no longer serves them. Most people stay too long, in jobs that drain them, in relationships that damage them, in arguments they have already won. The cost of staying feels lower than the cost of leaving, so they endure. But the Stoics understood that endurance without purpose is not virtue. It is self-destruction. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." The top 1% have learned to ask a question that changes everything. If I were not already in this situation, would I choose to enter it today? If the answer is no, they leave, not with anger, not with drama. They simply redirect their energy towards something that deserves it. Walking away is not quitting. It is the strategic reallocation of your most finite resource, your time. Habit number 9. They invest in themselves before anything else. The average person invests money, attention, and energy into everything outside of themselves. Their car, their appearance, their social media presence, the image they project to the world. The top 1% invest inward first. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free." And he did not mean formal education. He meant the relentless pursuit of understanding, of self-knowledge, of mental and emotional growth. The most successful people in the world read voraciously, not for entertainment, but for leverage. They study history so they do not repeat its mistakes. They study philosophy so they can think clearly under pressure. They study human nature so they can lead effectively. But it goes beyond books. They invest in their health because they know that a sharp mind requires a strong body. They invest in solitude because they know that clarity only comes in silence. They invest in mentors because they know that learning from someone else's experience is the greatest shortcut that exists. While most people spend their money trying to look successful, the top 1% spend their time trying to become capable. And that is a difference no amount of money can fake. Habit number 10. They end each day with reflection. This is where it all comes together. The final habit is the one that ensures all the others actually stick. Every night, Marcus Aurelius sat down and reviewed his day. Not to judge himself harshly, but to learn. He asked himself 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What will I do differently tomorrow? This practice, the Stoics called it the evening review, is the single most powerful tool for personal growth ever developed, and it takes less than 5 minutes. Most people end their day by collapsing in front of a screen, numbing their mind, and falling asleep without a single moment of conscious thought about how they lived the last 16 hours. The top 1% end their day with intention, the same way they began it. Seneca practiced this every evening without fail. He wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I have done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by." This is not self-punishment. This is calibration, a daily reset that ensures you are always moving in the right direction, even if the steps are small. 5 minutes of honest reflection each night will teach you more about yourself than 5 years of avoiding the mirror. These 10 habits are not secrets. They are not complicated, and they are available to anyone willing to practice them. But that is exactly why they separate the top 1%. Because while everyone has access to these habits, very few people have the discipline to practice them consistently. The Stoics did not become great by knowing the right things. They became great by doing the right things every single day, especially when no one was watching. You do not need a perfect morning routine. You do not need an expensive journal or a personal coach. You need 5 minutes of silence in the morning, a pause before you react, the discipline to say less, the courage to walk away, and 5 minutes of honesty before you sleep. Start tonight. Pick one habit. Practice it for 7 days. Then add another. Within 90 days, you will not recognize the person you have become. If this resonated with you, leave the word discipline in the comments. And if you are ready to begin your Stoic journey today, download the Becoming Stoic app on the App Store. It gives you daily Stoic reflections, guided journaling, and ancient wisdom every morning. The link is in the description. Subscribe for more, and remember, the gap between you and the top 1% is not talent, it is habits.